Memches Amud Aleph. I assume that whoever gave that last DAF got to the Mishnah. It's only 3 lines down. Talk to Mishnah. Ha'halel v'hasimcha shmoina ketzad. So this is a continuation from the last Mishnah where we said Ha'halel and Simcha. That's the reciting of Hallel and rejoicing. And Rashi says over there that it's with the meat of the Shlomim. Are all 8 days of Yontif. So all 8 days includes Shmini Atzeres. Ketzad. So how do you have that? Melamed shechayiv adam behalel ubesimcha ubekavod yomtiv ha'achrein shel chag. Tomorrow we'll explain exactly how we have kavod yomtiv. It's actually in the next Mishnah. Kavod yomtiv ha'achrein shel chag keshar kol yemai chag. So all 8 days, including Shmini Atzeres, have a din of halal and simcha and kavod yomtiv. So it carries over even into the 8th day. The Gemara asks, how do we know? The Ton Rabbanon, how do we know that we have this is the question of Menachem here is going on the Simcha. How do you know that you have Simcha even on the 8th day on Shmini Atzeres? Menachem, the Ton Rabbanon v'hayisa ach sameach. So the pasuk says v'samachta b'chagecha. You have to have Simcha all of the Chag, which is the first 7 days, and ach sameach l'rabbis leila yom tov ha'achrein, to include the night of the last day, which is Shmini Atzeres. So that would mean that you have to shecht another carbon or carbon shlomim on the 7th day of Sukkot in order to eat the meat that night, to have the simcha that night. And the way Mepharshim explained is that for sure for the next day, because the day is the main thing. So if you have to have simcha at night, for sure you have to have it in the day. But the way they had simcha is by shechting they had a carbon the previous day, and then they had that meat for the next day. So the Gemara asks, maybe from Ach Sameach we should learn maybe the first day you should shecht an animal on Erev Yontif before the whole sukkah starts, so you should have the meat for that night. So when it says Ach, it's telling us that Ach Cholak, Ach Sameach, Acholak divides. It's a continuation from the first 7 days. It goes into the 8th day. It's telling us it's telling us that Acholak is telling us that we're being marba one and being memayet another. One is included. We shecht an extra animal, one more than we would have thought, but not another, and we're taking out a different one. So the Gemara asks, how do we know to include the 8th day and to exclude the first day, the first night? The Gemara answers, because since it's followed by it's following the simcha before it, because it says samachta b'chagecha, and that goes into v'hayisa ach sameach. So since it had simcha before it, so that's why I choose the last day rather than the first day. And we exclude leila yom tov harishon she'ein simcha lefanav, because there's no simcha before that. It's not preceded by simcha. Okay, Zok the Mishnah. Next Mishnah. Sukkah shiva ketzad. How do you have sukkah? How do you perform the mitzvah of sukkah all 7 days? This is really referring to on the 7th day. What do you do? Gamar milacha, when you finish eating, you finish the meal on the 7th day. Lo yatir es sukkasai. Don't untie the I guess whatever's holding it up. Don't undo it to let your sukkah collapse. Avol moirid es hakelim min hamincha u'lamayla. But you take down the things, the kalim that you used in the sukkah. You're supposed to bring your nice kalim into the sukkah, like as if you're living there. So you bring it out of the sukkah, you bring it back into the house from mincha l'mayla, like the later half of the day. In order to show like you're preparing for the next yontif, which is Shmini Atzeres. So because of you're having kavod yontif, it's kavod yontif to prepare by bringing back in all the furniture, whatever you have in the sukkah that was making it nice, your kalim that you were using, you bring that back into the house to use for Shmini Atzeres. Says the Gemara, ein lo kalim lahayrid mahu. Let's say you don't have kalim to bring in, so then what do you do? So the Gemara asks, ein lo kalim. So what did he use? What do you mean he had no kalim? So what did he use in the sukkah? So the Gemara explains the question of the Gemara isn't that he doesn't have kalim. Rather, Ella ein lo makam lahayrid kalav. you don't have place to bring it in. So I think, if I'm understanding correctly, it means that you don't have a place to have your Suda in the house. In other words, you're going to still be sitting in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. Like you're still going to keep your kalim. Either means that you don't have a place to put your kalim, or you don't have a place to go. So then what do you do? Because there's a problem of Baal Taisif. You can't add an 8th day to Sukkahs.
Is that why he has to take the kalim out? So it shouldn't seem like he's adding?
Yeah. So if you keep your sukkah all set up with your kalim and everything, so then it looks like you're carrying on for another day. So Rab Chia Bar Ashi changes on the side over here. Rab Chia Bar Ashi Amar Peiches Ba Arba. You make a hole of 4 tvachim in the schach, and then you make your sukkah puzzle that way. So you're showing that even though maybe you're in the sukkah, but it's not kosher sukkah. Maybe you could put down the shlach for the same. Peiches Ba Arba. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar Madlik Bas Haner. You put the neris, you put a candle inside the sukkah, which normally we don't do. Allah is you don't put a candle in the sukkah. We do, but depending on the size of the sukkah, we'll see. But like Pligi, he's not arguing on Reb Chia Bar Ashi. Reb Shua ben Levi is not arguing on him. Rather, halon v'halahu. One is talking about for the Bnei Bavel, which were not kvi not Bakiyim. They didn't know the kvi diyarchi. They didn't know the calendar, so they had a sveka de yoma. So there was a possibility that the 8th day is still the 7th day. So therefore, according to him, he held you should leave the sukkah intact. You shouldn't ruin it with the schach, because you're going to still sit there just in case it's the 7th day. But you want to show that you're doing something that's not regular, you don't normally do on sukkahs, so you put a candle in the sukkah. Halon v'halahu. Halahu is talking about the Bnei Eretz Yisrael. They knew the calendar, so they didn't have a Sveika de Yoma. So they were able to move the schach over already. Hateinach sukkah ketana. That only works by a small sukkah. But sukkah gedalia ma'ikal meimar, because the sukkah gedalia you're allowed to put candles in anyways. The only problem of candle in the sukkah is the sukkah ketana. By a small sukkah, we're afraid it's going to catch fire. Ma'ikal meimar dema'ayal b'mani michla. So what you do is you bring in some serving plates, like some pots or dishes that you don't normally keep in the sukkah. The halacha is that after you finish eating, you have to take the dishes out of the sukkah. The Gemara earlier said here, the Amar Rava mani michla bar mimitalalasa mani mishasya bimitalalasa. The food kalim, like the plates, you take out of the sukkah, but drinking kalim, like cups and things like that, then it's them where you can keep in the sukkah. That's not like a bezoyan. So if you showing that it's not yantiv anymore by that you don't have the mitzvah of sukkah anymore by keeping the dishes inside the sukkah. Okay, next Mishnah. Nisuch hamayim ketzad. How did they perform the mitzvah of Nisuch hamayim? Tzluchas shel zohav. They had this like barrel made of gold. Machzekes shlosh lugim. It held 3 lug. Okay. Hayam emayle min hashiluach. They used to fill up the water from the shiluach, which was like a body of water outside Yerushalayim. Higiu l'shar hamayim. They got to the water gate. They got the shar hamayim. Taku b'hariu v'taku. They blew a tkiya, trua, and tkiya. They blew the shofar. Olav kevesh. They went up on the ramp. Upana l'smoila. They turned left. Which we'll see in the Gemara is not the norm. They usually went up on the right side and then kept following to the right all the way. Even if you needed to get to the left side, you always went around to the right. But here they went up to the left. It's one of the exceptions. There were 2 like buckets, whatever, or how do they translate it? Like silver bowl, of silver, made of silver. Hayusham, they were there on the left, on the southwestern, on the southwestern corner of the mizbeach. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer shel sid hayu. They were made of limestone, sid. El shahayu mushcharin pneian mipnei hayayin. They only looked silver because they were darkened. They were by the wine. They were stained from the wine that they used to put in there. Umenukavin kimin shnei chaytmin dakin, and they had a hole. It was like it went out a little bit. It looked like a nose. Each one had like a nose with a spout, with a hole, and that's where the water and the wine came out from. And it went on to the mizbech, and then it went down to and we'll see like on tomorrow's DAF that it went into these shitin, like these holes that went all the way down into the depths of the earth, the Chaim. Okay, so kimin shnei chaytmin dakin, these small nose, like a small hole. Echad meuva ve'echad dak. One was thicker and one was thinner. Kedei sheyu shneim kalim bebas achas. The Gemara will explain this. In order that they should both finish they should both empty out at the same time. They had one hole which was big, a little thicker, one hole which was a little thinner. Okay, Ma'aravai Shalmayim, the one on the west side was the one of water. Mizrachai, the one on the east side, is both on the same side of the Mizbeach, but one sat on the east of one. So the one on the west was the water, one on the east was the wine. Ira Shalmayim l'teich Shalyayin, v'Shalyayin l'teich Shalmayim. If by mistake you mixed it up and you put the wine in the water basin and you put the water in the wine, it's yatsa. It's okay. Rabbi Yehuda, Aimer belug hayim menasech kol shmoina. And we'll see from the Gemara that he's only talking about the water. The wine, everybody agrees. It seems that everybody agrees that it's 3 lugim. But Rabbi Yehuda says that with regard to the water, all 8 days that you only used 1 lug. So he's arguing on the Chachamim over here, which say 3. It's only 1 lug. Ula menasech Aimer, to the menasech, to the one who poured it, they used to say Hag b'yadcha, pick up your hands, show us your hands. Shepam echad nasach echad al gabe raglov, because one time a tzduki, one of the tzdukim, because they didn't hold of this whole Nisach HaMayim, because we only know it, learned out, the Chachamim teach it, that it's not mefurish in the Torah, it's a halacha ma'aseh misinai, so we don't, so the tzdukim didn't believe in it. So one time, the person that was pouring in the water or the wine into the thing for the Nisach HaMayim, he poured it on his legs. Nasach echad al gabe raglov urgamu kol ames regehen, and everybody stoned him with their esregim, because he was a tzduki. He showed that he wasn't following the way of the Chachamim. Kimaseu b'chol kach maseu b'Shabbos. The way they did it in the week, they also did it on Shabbos. Ella shahayim in other words, they did the same procedures. Ella, the only difference was shahayim malei me'erev Shabbos. They filled up this chavis shel zahav before Shabbos. They didn't go draw the water on Shabbos. Rather, they filled it up before Shabbos, and they put it in this thing of gold. She'ena mikudeshes. The chavis shel zahav was not mikudeshes. So it seems that the issue was because of lina. If it was one of the sacred vessels in the base of Mikdash, there would have been a problem of lina, of leaving the water overnight. But if it wasn't a keli which had kedusha of hektish, so then it didn't. In other words, it wasn't already used for avodah, so then it wouldn't be a problem of lina. They used a non-mekudeshes vessel, and they filled this up from before Shabbos, from the shiluach. Umenicha belishka, they put it into the chamber, and they prepared it there for the next day for Shabbos. Nishpacha, if it got spilled or nisgala or was left open, so they couldn't use it. So hayim emalim in akir, they just filled up the water from the kiyar. Shehayayin v'hamayin megulin psulin legabe mizbeach. Water or wine which was left open is puzzle for the mizbeach. Let's see the Gemara. Menahani mili. So Gemara asks, Minohani Mili, how do we know, and Rashi says the question of how do we know is going on the blowing of the shofar. So how do we know that when they filled up the water from the Mei Shiluach, that they blew trumpets, and they made a whole ceremony out of it? Minohani Mili, Amar Rav Eina, the Amar Krok, it says in the pasuk, Ushavte Mayim B'Sasain. They used to draw the water with sasain. Sasain is like with rejoicing. So this was a way, like they had a band come along and they blew, that's the sasain. That's rejoicing. Now the Gemara goes off on a little tangent with regard to sasain and simcha. We'll see. Hanu trei mini. There were 2 heretics, 2 sedukim. Chad shmei sasain, v'chad shmei simcha. One's name was sasain and one's name was simcha.
Simcha.
What?
With a band.
Yeah. Amar lei sasain l'simcha. Sasain said to simcha, Ana adifna minach. I'm better than you. Why? Because there's a pasuk that says sasain v'simcha yasigu. It puts sasain before simcha. So I'm greater than you because this pasuk is in Yeshaya. Du Hashem Yeshuvanu bo tzin rina. B'simchas olam al roshim sasain v'simcha yasigu. Okay, so sasain comes before simcha. So Amar le, what did he say back? Sasain v'simcha yasigu. Amar le simcha l'sasain. Simcha said back to sasain, I'm better than you, because we have a pasuk which says simcha v'sasain la Yehudim. Right? In the Megillah we had simcha v'sasain la Yehudim. So simcha comes before sasain. Amar le sasain l'simcha. Sasain says back to simcha. Chad yayma shavkucha v'shavyucha parvanka. One day they're going to demote you, and they're going to make you into this parvanka. It seems like it's some sort of like messenger boy or parvanka. Rashi says, "Rutz lo rutz lefan of you, run ahead."
It's a scout.
Yeah, some sort of. Rashi explains here. I saw before. You go check on the roads or something like that. They're going to demote you because it says in the pasuk, the ksiv ki b'simcha seitzeyu. With simcha, you're going to have to run out ahead and go check on everything. So you're going to be demoted. Amar lei simcha l'sasain. Simcha says back to sasain. Chad yoy b'shavkucha. You're going to be demoted. Umalu b'cha maya. You're going to have to be the one to go fill up the water. You're going to be a water carrier. You're going to go draw the water because it says the ksiv v'shavtem mayim b'sasain. Fill up the water with sasain. So you see that you're the one. Okay, that was the argument who was better amongst the two minim. Sasain and Simcha. Amar lehahu mina, in a different generation, maybe it was an anacle of this one, he was also a min, and his name was Sasain, also the Shmei Sasain, l'Rabavo. One time this certain min, whose name was Sasain, said to Rabavo, Asidisu ditemalu li mayim la'alma da'asi. In the world to come, they're gonna fill up water for me. The chsiv, everybody's going to draw water for me. The chsiv, ushafta mayim b'sasain, because it says they're going to draw water for sasain. So Amar Lei, Rabbi said back to him, you have ksiv lis sasain. If it would have said lis sasain, draw water for sasain, then kedekamet, then you would have been right. Hasha the chsiv bis sasain. Now that it says bis sasain, mashchei dehahu gavra meshvinan leguda umalinan beimaya. In regards to that person, referring to this guy sasain, you're going to be the actual vessel which they put the water in. They're going to fill you up with water. And you're going to be like the pitcher or whatever, the thing that they put the water in. Okay, Dr. Gemara Vayter. All of the He went up the ramp and they turned left, because that was like a more direct route to the where they did the Nisach Hamayim and the Nisach Hayayin. Tana Rabbanon kala oilam lemizbeach. Anyone who went up the Mizbeach, Oilen Derech Yamin, you went up on the right side, Umakifin, you went around the Yarden Derech Small. You went to the right, and you followed around the Mizbeach, which was a very long trip, by the way. You had to go, you walked more than like 100 amas all the way around. And they came down on the left side of the ramp. They're small. Except for three people. Except for if you're going up for three things. For the following three things, which you go up on the left side. And you go back on your heel. In other words, you go back the way you came up. Normally you don't go back the way you came up. You go around, come back the other side. But here you go up and you come down the same way. Yes. Sorry?
It's not like walking back. Is that what that means?
No, I understood that you just follow the same route that you go. You follow your footsteps just the other way. And these are the three things. The Nisach Hamayim and the Nisach Hayayim, like we just discussed. And Oilas Ha'oif was when there were too many bird offerings for Oilas Ha'oif on the east side, so then they used they did it on the west side, apparently. So when it got too busy, Karen Droimis Mizrachis, it was on the southeast side normally, because that was the closest to the base of Deshen. That's where they threw the leftover stuff there. Okay, but when it got too busy, they did it on the left side, so they were able to go up the other way. Those are the three exceptions. Okay, says the Gemara. So the Mishnah said that according to one opinion, who was it again? It was Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that these were the basin that you put the water and the wine in were really made of sid, limestone, which was like a light color. It wasn't dark like silver, but it looked like silver because it became darkened from the wine. Bishlam with the yayin mashker. It makes sense why the one with the wine becomes dark, but the maya my mashker, but the one that held the water, why was that dark? Why did that look like silver? So Gemara answers, Kiva the Amar Mar Ira Shamayim L'Toich Shal Yayin V'Shal Yayin L'Toich Shamayim Yotza. Since if you mixed it up, made a mistake and put the wrong substance in the wrong bucket, so then it's okay. Shamayim Asi Lashchuri. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen that the wine is going to end up in the water basin, so therefore it also becomes dark. Okay, says the Gemara, Umanukavim Kimin Beis Chaytman. It looks like a nose, like two noses, but it's like each one has one nose and one hole. Leib Maslisin Rabbi Yehuda. Let's say the Gemara suggests that our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda again in the Mishnah said that there used to be menachem on all the days of Sukkot with one lug of water and 3 lugan of wine. But according to the Chachamim, it was 3 and 3. Okay, so let's say our Mishnah is talking about it's Rabbi Yehuda. Why? V'lo Rabbanan. D'Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer belug hay menasech kol shmeina. Because our Mishnah says that Rabbi Yehuda says that you used to use one lug. The Rabbanan, if it would be like the Rabbanan, ki hadadi ninhu, it's the same amount. So then why would it say that one is thicker and one is thinner? The Mishnah said that each one had a spout, a hole, and one was thicker and one was thinner. So we understand, according to Rabbi Yehuda, which it was different amounts, the water was there was three times more wine than water, so you needed to have a bigger hole in order that they should finish at the same time. You wanted them to both empty out at the same time. So you need to have a bigger hole for the wine because there's much more wine. So it'll come out faster. So that makes sense according to Rabbi Yehuda. But according to the Rabbanan, the Rabbanan ki hadadi ninhu. According to Rabbanan, it's the same amount. There's 3 lugan of water and 3 lugan of wine. So why would the holes be different size? So that's the proof that the Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yehuda.
They're poured at the same time?
They're poured in at the same time. Yeah. So the Gemara says, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Afilu temer Rabbanan. It could even be the Rabbanan, which holds it's the same amount. You start off with the same amount of wine, the same amount of water. Why does one have a bigger hole and one have a smaller hole? Chamra samich maya kolish. The water is very thin, so it goes out very quickly. Even if it's the same amount, still the wine will take longer to empty out because it's a thicker substance. So you need to have, the hole has to be a little bit bigger. And the Gemara says not only that, it's even mistaver. It's logical to say like this, that it's going according to the Chachamim in the Mishnah. The Rabbi Yehuda, because if it would have been Rabbi Yehuda, Rachav v'Katzar itzlei. He holds Rachav v'Katzar, like we'll see in a minute. Our Mishnah, the words that our Mishnah uses is me'uva and dak. Echad me'uva v'echad dak. One is thick, one is thinner, right? But we see in a Bryce over here, the Tanya Rabbi Yehuda, Aimer Shnei Kashvois Hayusham. There were 2 like buckets. Echad shamayim v'echad shal yayin. One of wine, one of water. Water, one of wine. Shal yayin pia rochav. Shal mayim pia katzar. The one of wine, it had a wider hole, the opening, and the one of water, it was a narrower opening. Kadeshi yu shneim kalan bebas achas shmamina. In order that they should both finish at the same time. So we found the brisa where Rabbi Yehuda says the difference between the 2 holes is one is wider and one is narrower. So the way Rashi explains is that's a much bigger difference than our Mishnah's words of mu'uva and dak. Thicker and thinner is a smaller difference than wider and narrower. So if it would have been Rabbi Yehuda, where the discrepancy is 3 lug of wine versus 1 lug of water, then it would have made sense to say in the Mishnah Rachav and Katzar, which Rabbi Yehuda uses that lashon in a different brisa. So he should have used that lashon in the Mishnah too. By the fact that the Mishnah says av and dak, mu'uva and echad mu'uva ve'echad dak, that's a raya. It's a smaller difference. It's a raya that must be the Rabbanan. It's only the one. It's the same amount, 3 lug of each, but the one of wine has to be a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, because it's a thicker substance. So in order for it to end at the same time, the hole has to be a little bit thicker. So that's the raya. Okay. The last little Gemara over here is the Gemara says Maravai Shalmayim. On the west side it was the one of water, and the east side was the one of wine. Tan Rabbanon Ma'aseh b'tzeduki echad. There was once another story with a tzeduki. Shenisech al gabe raglov, that he poured the wine, the nisuch hamayim or yayin on his feet in order not to do it properly. Urugamu kol ha'amis be'esregein. Everybody stoned him with their esregim. And what happened was, they damaged the keren, which like the corner of the mizbeach. They have you bull shel melach. They brought like a fistful of salt. Ustamuhu. They patched it up just for the time being, like a temporary patch for the keren for the corner of the mizbeach. Not because now they made it okay for avoda. Rather, just like it seems like a matter of like covered for the mizbeach. It shouldn't look like it's ruined, but it wasn't good enough to do the avoda. Shekol mizbeach, top of Mem Tesam Aleph. Shekol mizbeach she'ein loy kevesh v'loy keren v'loy yisoid v'loy ribua puzzle la'avoda. It's puzzle for avoda. If it doesn't have the ramp, the keren, which were the four corners, each had 1 amma by 1 amma by 1 amma, like 1 amma each in the square, and also 1 amma high. That's how big those corners were. It doesn't have a yisoid. Yisoid, we said, was the bottom. Just 2 blot ago we had in the DAF. We had the very bottom on the west and north side of the mizbeach. There was a yisoid, which was 1 amma high, also and 1 amma deep. And v'loy rivua. What's the rivua?
Square. It has to be cute. Square.
Oh, it has to be square, right? It has to be the same dimension. wide and long, right?
Is this the same incident as Malchianai, or did it occur more than once?
So same instance as what?
Rabbi, Malchianai. So this occurred with Malchianai.
Oh, that they also broke the thing? I'm not sure. I don't remember. Yeah. So Pasal Avaida, so they just patched it up just so to look better, but it wasn't good for that Avaida. Have a very wonderful day.